It is. Oh, it's only an hour. Jeff Howe, Jordan Scruggs. It's the start of the early signing period. Day one is today. Jordan, let's get right to it, man. What are we at? 19 national letters of intent, I think, are in so far. We're waiting on two, or 20 actually are in. Ryan Wingo's letter of intent is not in yet that we know of. Neither is Aaron Hampton's. Let's go ahead and get to the latest. Let's start with Hampton because I think that's the easier one to talk about right now. You've been pretty, and by the way, I apologize if you guys hear dings and bings. I'm not going on Do Not Disturb today just because we got to keep the notifications open in case something pops. So I'm apologizing now. But you've been skeptical for a few weeks now that Aaron Hampton was going to end up in this class. And lo and behold, we're seeing in the last probably 12 hours, that's not just smoke. We're seeing a lot of our experts in the 24/7 Sports Network put in those flip picks for Aaron Hampton to end up at Alabama. Does that pretty much jive with what you're hearing right now? And that pretty much jives with what you've been hearing for a while now on Hampton.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. Today's like gonna be the main day I'm like looking away at stuff. I have the
That's totally
signing day show
understandable.
from 24/7 on one screen and our board and some other stuff on the other. Um, yeah, with Aaron Hampton, it's something I've been hearing for a few weeks, but it really started to get serious in the last few days because it was calls some other people on the 24/7 network or calls some people outside of East Texas that were also hearing the same thing. Um, that said, we've known Aaron Hampton. We've well covered it. He's been committed to Baylor. He's and decommitted. He's been committed to Texas and decommitted before committing again. We're expecting him to sign with Alabama. I never put in a crystal ball pick originally for Texas, to be honest, because I anticipated this happening. And whenever you put in a crystal ball for someone and they end up like maybe flipping, you don't really get a heads up usually on flips, and it's not fun having to manage that. So I never put one in, but if I did, I would have flipped it to Alabama. Hank South, same thing for him. We talked about that this morning, actually, because we both had thought we had them in. And then remembered we hadn't put them in. But, yeah, we're expecting Aaron Hampton to end up at Alabama and not at Texas. Wingo, a lot of drama with that this morning, but Steve Wilfong reported we're expecting him to sign with Texas as of now. But, again, man, it's 2023 recruiting. It's signing day. Absolutely anything can happen.
Yeah, so
But
let's get to that. Let's cover the Aaron Hampton thing first, just to kind of put that to bed, because for all intents and purposes, Jordan, this might be the last time on this show we talk about Aaron Hampton. You've said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I'm remembering correctly, there are other receivers that you like in this Texas class more than him, and there are other corner prospects in this Texas class that you like more than him. You still pretty much on board with that?
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he's an athlete taking his position still isn't final for what he could play at Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The three guys who we know for a fact are going to play receiver, well, obviously two that we know for a fact, one that we should know shortly. With Wingo, Freddie DeBose, and Parker Livingstone, I like all three of those guys as receivers right now and long-term, short-term, whatever you want to call it. More than Hampton at the receiver position. Then if we go over to defensive back, Santana Wilson, Phil Sami, Kobe Black, Wardell Mack, Jordan Johnson-Rubel. I think I got all of them.
I think so.
All of those guys, I also like as defensive backs more than Aaron Hampton as a defensive back. And I don't want to make it seem like we're dragging him through the mud because he's likely to flip from Texas, but
right.
I mean, this was I kind of wrote how I was a little skeptical in the summer whenever he did commit and how this is something they'd have to watch for. And I mean, even fans on our board have been saying the same thing. So, that being said, if Nick Saban wants to, you're obviously good at football and you're a good player. But kind of like I've said for the last week or two, if there's a guy you want to lose as Texas, this is probably one of them, one of the guys you can't afford to lose. I mean,
Yeah.
and Texas can afford to lose a lot of people with all the resources they have and obviously the transfer portal. But the sting factor on this one is definitely less than it would be on other guys.
Yeah. And I'm interested to see with these defensive backs. specifically, like we know Phil Sami's a safety. We know Wardell Mack is going to be a corner, but like,
Mhm.
where does Kobe Black end up? Where does JJR end up? I'm pretty sure Santana Wilson's going to be a corner. Does one of those guys end up man in the star position, in the future? I think some of those guys have enough versatility that you can. I think what also cushions. I think you can make up for the loss of Hampton if he does end up indeed signing with Alabama. I think the other thing too, Jordan, at least in the short term, Drew Makuba's ability to play that star position and safety, and if you wanted to slide him over and let him play corner, I just think his versatility in the short term is going to help you at least fill the hole. Maybe you had and thinking Aaron Hampton's going to give you X number of snaps next year. Well, okay, that's just a few more snaps that are going to go to Andrew Makuba or Phil Sami or somebody else. So it sucks when you lose a member of your class at the 11th hour, especially as much work as the staff put in to get him back committed. But like you said, and this isn't sour grapes on our part, it's just looking at it from a realistic standpoint. It's a position group where you've got the numbers to at least make up for the loss. So it stings, but the blow is lessened with what you've got in the pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. Someone just said I just came on who decommitted. No one's decommitted yet. We were just talking about how we're anticipating that it's likely that Aaron Hampton is going to flip to Alabama sometime today. Something we kind of covered in the last few weeks and been writing about more in the last week on Horns 24/7. I said it on yesterday's show, but this is something we've had a story written for a week or two, and something that I've been hearing probably about a month and a half, and I've been keeping Hank South in the loop. But also letting made sure Texas was aware, and you don't really get anything good out of reporting it until it's really starting to come down close. So it got more serious and serious the closer we got to signing day, and in the last week it got really serious because it started to come from people outside East Texas as well. So that being said, we're anticipating him flipping to Alabama today. And yeah. Jake Bayless said nothing's been said yet on Ty Anthony Smith. Yeah, so he's doing a ceremony at 6:30 tonight or this evening, whatever you want to call it. As of right now, we're expecting Texas, but again, like I said for Ryan Wingo, even though this is what we're expecting, anything can happen in today's world of recruiting. But again, if I had a gun to my head, whatever, I would choose Texas is where I think he's going. I think many other people would say the same thing.
Let's talk about Ryan Wingo. We buried the lead long enough, and again, we'll get some more Aaron Hampton reaction. If it happens to where he flips to Alabama today, again, that's what we're expecting at this point. Let's talk about Ryan Wingo though, Jordan. I texted you guys pretty late last night. I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I had gotten a ping that Nebraska was trying to make a late push. Now, while I was told that the Nebraska thing, there probably wasn't going to be many legs to it. It was just kind of one of those deals where they're throwing the Hail Mary at the end. I don't think it should shock anybody that Missouri, and I you know what, Jordan, I know it's been categorized as Missouri's final push. If Eli Drinkwitz and that staff haven't been recruiting him since the minute he committed to Texas, they wouldn't be doing their job. They'd be doing themselves a disservice. I just think at this point, there's just been so much said and so much conjecture and everybody trying to figure out what's going on this morning. Did he sleep in late and that's why the ball is slow to get rolling? Was somebody in his circle really upset that he wasn't allowed to practice with the team during bowl practices? That's been thrown out there. What do you make heads or tails of, Jordan, right now? Because a lot of this stuff, man, this isn't my first rodeo. 99% of the stuff that gets thrown out on signing day when a guy's letter of intent is late, a lot of it turns out to be BS. When you cut through the fat, what do you think is, and get down to the nitty gritty, what do you think is really the deal going on with Ryan Wingo right now, as best you know?
I mean, I don't know. There's always a chance he did sleep in. I know a lot of schools are already out for Christmas break, of course. I'd be lying to you if I told you I know exactly what's going on. I don't think many people do outside the Wingo household. But I mean, I don't know. There's Missouri obviously was in contact with them late last night. They're obviously making a push. Stevie Wonder could see that this is NIL money written all over it.
Yeah.
And that's a great chance that's what's getting talked about right now.
Yeah.
It's a great chance. So that's just kind of how recruiting works. I won't sugarcoat it. So that's likely what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And again, nobody really knows for sure, except if you're in the Wingo house. But if I don't think it's bowl practices. I don't think it's anything. I think it bowls. I think it's, and not to say that it's a leverage ploy, but man, if Missouri came in with some type of NIL offer that, you'd be stupid to just immediately say no and not at least think about it. To me, that's the easiest explanation for the pause here at the end for that LOI not being in yet, as far as we know.
Yeah.
You're pretty dialed into the NIL scene. Have you heard of other recruitments where that's happened today? Because we're seeing some, every year we see flips and we see, guys, just maybe there's a school that was kind of in the background that suddenly comes to the forefront. You feel like in this cycle, you think NIL, how big of a player, let me rephrase that. How big of a player do you think NIL is in this early signing period?
Look, NIL's it's a really important part of a lot of recruitments. A lot of recruitments, a major factor is who will fork up the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's so many 5 stars I know of that I know what different schools are offering them, and they're not going to the highest bidder. Some of them not even the second highest bidder. It's kind of just a situational thing. Each scenario is different, and everyone has different priorities, and each kid is in a different situation financially, how they grew up, their family, their support circle, stuff like that. So, it's really different for each kid, and also it's different for each position.
Mm-hmm.
Schools won't go over a certain number for some positions and vice versa. Like a 5-star cornerback will never get what a 5-star quarterback will get. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So,
Right.
um,
Don't tell that 5-star corner that though, because they'll, you know what I mean?
yeah,
I think the other thing, and Steve Wiltfong has been pretty dialed in on the Wingo recruitment for a while now. I mean, Steve said he believes it's a situation where Ryan Wingo really likes Texas. He loves Texas, but maybe there's some family pressure at this point to stay close to home and go to Missouri. And it's not like Missouri, Jordan, it's not like they were on the periphery in this Wingo recruitment. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't they a perceived leader at one point for him?
yeah, like like everyone thought, including yours truly, he was going there up until like the morning of the night before. That's when
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh, it's actually Texas." So even though he's only ever been committed to Texas, I mean, technically, I would say they did flip him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sorry, I'm just trying to keep up, trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. I was actually trying to find the tidbit that Steve dropped on Ryan Wingo earlier. Actually, yeah, this was from Steve about an hour ago. I think 48 minutes ago. A source with knowledge of the recruitment let 24/7 Sports know they think 5-star receiver Ryan Wingo will remain true to his commitment to Texas after talking to Missouri last night. It's one of the jewels of the Longhorns class, ranked number 5 nationally. So I think what fans the Flames, Jordan, is I think people, like the Aaron Hampton deal, you've been dropping hints and not so subtle hints either that this could be happening. And people I think are now reading the tea leaves. With Wingo, I think people were doing the same thing where maybe they don't necessarily need to be doing that. It's not like he was gone. And you and Hank are dialed in enough to what's going on at Texas. I mean, I'm sure one of you guys would have gotten some kind of a phone call from somebody with knowledge of what's going on there if he was for sure gone. So, and that hasn't happened yet. So, I think everybody just needs to kind of sit tight and just let this thing play out. I haven't heard anything that gives me reason to believe that he's gone or that he's going to sign with Missouri. So, I'll trust that last report Steve had out almost an hour ago that, according to a source, he thinks Ryan Wingo is going to stick through it and sign with Texas, even despite this late push from Mizzou.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and look at some of the. Do you have something else, Jordan? My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Go
Jeremiah
ahead and look
Smith,
at.
by the way, is going to have an announcement in a few minutes. By the way, this has been something that was planned for a minute. It's not like it was like the Travis
Yeah,
Hunter thing where it's like he's going live in 10 minutes
no, the
and their
Hunter
hats
thing
at his
was.
high school.
Yeah, the Hunter thing that was over the course of, I don't know. It was probably maybe a couple hours, but it seemed like it was about 10 minutes where he was going to Florida State and then he wasn't.
Yeah.
But we expecting Jeremiah Smith to follow through and sign with Ohio State at this point. The
Yeah,
number
but I
one
mean,
overall prospect in
Florida
47,
State
by
and
the way.
Miami never ever gave up on him. And Florida State in the last few weeks looked to be the best, position to land him, but it's actually looking like Miami or Steve Wilfong is reporting on Miami out of the three schools, saying they have the best shot.
Interesting.
And I read a story that 24/7's Brandon Marcello or Maricello, I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Marcelo, yeah.
He wrote on Jeremiah, and Jeremiah, one of the direct quotes verbatim was like, Miami's throwing all sorts of money at me. And it's like, dude, like you can't say that.
Yeah.
You can't say
It's
that. Like
we
knowing there's a actual shot you could be going there. Because it's like, man, Ohio State fans are ruthless. But I mean, any fans in that situation are going to be ruthless and screenshot the shit out of it and tweet it everywhere.
yeah, man.
Jake asked any Trey Moore news today. I mean, I don't know. It could come today, it could come tomorrow, it could come any day. It's I've been told paperwork submitted. So that being said, it's just a matter of when, not if is the way it's been described to me. So it could be today. Also with the transfers, I'm kind of surprised they haven't announced the transfer signings. I believe they did it last year. Although I'm not sure. So that
No,
could
they
also
did.
be how it gets announced.
They did. I'm trying to think of which transfers. I know Sanborn was a mid-year guy. I think AD Mitchell wouldn't have been a mid-year guy because he was with Georgia, or at least in that December signing window. And I'm trying to think. I know Sanborn was one of them. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, Texas under Sark, Texas tip. And I know that first group that Sark had, that first full cycle in 22, like Quinn and Ryan Watts and some of those guys got announced, in the December window. But I mean, nobody should be worried about Andrew McCuber, Matthew Golden. Like those things are good. But Trey Moore is interesting. I think it's worth talking about. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow, or I guess whenever it gets announced, and we'll start veering off, and our coverage will be more tilted toward the Sugar Bowl after today. But Trey Moore, I've said it before, Jordan. I think this is Pete Kwiatkowski looking at his defensive line, saying, maybe we're not going to be as strong on the interior as we had hoped, as we were last year. So let's just go ahead. It's easier. Let's take a premium pass rusher. Let's beef up on the edges, and maybe the loss on the interior and the gain on the edge, maybe it kind of balances each other out.
Yeah. Sorry. They're going live with Jeremiah Smith. Now, I doubt he'll even start talking for a few minutes because that's kind of how those things go. I don't know if someone's trolling or not. I think I'd see a notification on my phone before Shorty on YouTube breaks it. But yeah, good. I'm like, hopefully I'm not wrong, but I'm not.
No,
Still looked
I don't.
anyways. Evan Stewart. I'm surprised I haven't seen anything on that till now.
Let's talk about it, man. This is one that, man, it seems like ever since he signed his LOI with A&M, people have been anticipating, Texas fans have been anticipating, all right, not if, but when he goes in the portal, does Texas go after him? So he's in the portal as of yesterday. Jordan, you had an interesting report that you had been told kind of hypothetically, if he were to enter the portal, that Texas would probably like their chances, but hypotheticals and then dealing with it in real time, two totally different things. So I guess in the last, I don't know, 12 to 18 hours, have you heard anything different on Evan Stewart than what you initially reported yesterday?
I haven't, but at the same time, sorry, I don't want to leave y'all hanging, but I am interested to see this Jeremiah Smith stuff. Do you want me to turn it up so you can like kind of hear it coming off my mic, or no?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, he's the number one prospect in the country. I think it's worth mentioning. And this is on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page, right? Just let me know whenever the decision is in.
Yeah. But no, Evan Stewart. Yeah, I've been told the last 2 weeks. I mean, why would Texas not feel like they have a good chance to land someone that they finished second for in high school, and especially the way it finished. Especially the way Texas has changed as a program since they missed out on Evan Stewart back in the December of 2021.
Yeah.
Think about how many things have changed between A&M and Texas in 2 years in college football as a whole, the transfer portal and NIL. He going to Ohio State.
Jeremiah
Good
Smith's going to
job.
Ohio State.
Good
Okay.
job. Good job. That's what I'm talking about.
It's
Good
to know he
choice.
won't. Good to know he won't be getting any death threats from the greater Columbus area. So props to him.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, somebody mentioned in the chat. I don't remember who did, but man, dude, Ohio State fans, Texas fans have no love for Ohio State fans. Like there are still Texas fans that talk about their god awful experience in Columbus in 2005. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting up to Columbus here in the next few years to experience that whole deal, Ohio State on a game day. But no, so Evan Stewart, Jordan, there's been a lot of conjecture. Will Texas pursue? Won't they pursue? Have they been in touch? Will they be in touch? Is this just kind of one of those wait and see deals with Evan Stewart, you think? Or do you feel like Texas might not feel the need to pursue at this point?
I mean, I feel like look, if Texas is putting out feelers for Walter Nolan, they're going to be in contact with Evan Stewart. In some form or fashion, they're going to be in contact with Evan Stewart.
Yeah.
And there are already family members of Evan Stewart's reaching out to family members of Texas staff, or not of Texas staff, Texas players asking questions.
Yeah, it's
and that's, I'm sure that's not just the same thing for Texas. I'm sure it's the same for Alabama or any other schools he could be interested in. It's not like he doesn't have 7-on-7 teammates or high school teammates or a ton of other schools. Evan Stewart is a superstar all over TikTok, all over Instagram, all that. He has connections everywhere. Like, I expect him to take multiple visits. And kind of like his high school recruitment was, I expect it to kind of be all over the place and be one of the biggest storylines there is in the next few weeks or however long it takes for him to, decide where he's going.
Hypothetically, if Texas had a wide receivers coach other than Andre Coleman when Evan Stewart was going through that recruiting process the first time, you think he would have ended up at Texas, or you think there were just too many external factors that you feel like Brennan Marion could have been in that job, anybody could have been in that job, but he was going to A&M anyway?
I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't know the 100% full background of the recruitment, just because I wasn't covering it.
Right.
But I mean, dude, Andre Coleman is like it's like, the Three Sisters and Grown Ups. It's like Chris Jackson, Marion, and then Andre Coleman, and he's like, which one he is. That's Andre Coleman. So I don't think it helped them at all compared to if they would have had Chris Jackson then or Brennan Marion. But
yeah,
I can't tell you directly just off my knowledge if he's the sole reason they didn't. But I mean, I think it was a lot of things, the little knowledge I know. And do I think NIL played a part? Hell yeah, it played a part. NIL
Of
plays a
course.
part. Like I talked about, like 99% of anyone's recruitment in the top 247. Remember, people that have 4 or more stars next to their name, NIL is playing a part.
You saying 3 stars aren't getting any NIL love, Jordan?
It's not. I mean, not every 3-star, and I
I
mean
know. I know.
most 4 stars. I'd say there are
I
some
think it
four
was.
stars that probably aren't getting hooked up as much as they'd like, though.
Yeah. Here's where I am on the Evan Stewart thing. I think it was Tope Amade. Let me see if I can pull up Tope Amade's Twitter. I think he was the one who said it last night. And if I'm wrong, then I apologize. But basically, yeah, somebody said they don't want Evan Stewart in the locker room, and Tope quote tweeted it, said, "Then you don't trust the locker room to get him acclimated." I mean, that seems to be the big concern, Jordan. At least, like if the Pulse is the flagship message board at Horns 24/7, it's, man, this guy seems like a headache. Do you really want him? Do you want to bring him into the locker room? Well, this is why you built this is why you build a culture and trust it to where if you bring him in, you decide, yeah, he's going to get acclimated. And honestly, man, if you're Evan Stewart, I think your reputation is at the point where you got to realize at some point you're going to get a second chance, but that third chance might not be near what it probably isn't going to be like a frontline Power 5 school, or I guess Power 4 now, whatever we're talking about, but it's not going to be the option that you have right now. Like, you're going to have to
Yeah.
probably take something a little lower. So,
The-
it, it's, and I don't know Evan Stewart personally, didn't interact with him, but I've seen this with plenty of great receivers, and if it can happen to Des Bryant, to Randy Moss, to Chad Johnson, man, it can happen to anybody. When your talent when scale tips, when the imbalance starts to where your pain in the butt factor becomes more than your talent factor, then it's easier at that point for people to move on from you. Or you just aren't producing or whatever it is. At some point, people are going to stop giving you chances. So I hope there's somebody in Evan Stewart's ear saying, look, your junior year is going to be a contract year. Keep your nose clean, work your tail off, and you can have your last college season, be done with this thing in one calendar year, and then you're off to the league to make however much money you're going to make in the league. I hope there's somebody in his camp that's in his ear telling him that right now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but for the people who are talking about, I don't want them culture, blah blah blah, all that, they would have taken him out of high school, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
yes, things can change obviously in a 2 years time, but all I can say is that I think Evan Stewart is a better cultural fit than some players that signed their letter of intent out of high school today with Texas. That being
Okay.
said,
Well,
like other people are saying here, and like Tope said, it's just a guy you take and you let the rest figure it out. Like,
mhm.
there's a reason Evan Stewart was the number 1 receiver in America coming out of high school. I strongly believe he could sit out his 3rd year of college and still go 2nd round or 3rd
Yeah.
round.
Hey, Jordan, real quick, we got a breaking news update from Steve Wiltfong. He is told Ryan Wingo is signing his paperwork with Texas right now, and that it's about to get sent in. So the Ryan Wingo saga is about to come to an end. I'm sorry, you were making a great point on Evan Stewart. I didn't want to cut you off, but I had to
All
throw that
good.
in there, that Ryan Wingo is about to be a done deal. Maybe by the time we get to the end of this show, it'll be announced by Texas. So
Never in doubt.
thank you, Jake. Thank you for that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
knew it all the time. Knew it the whole time. But no, on Evan Stewart, but go ahead and finish your point about culture. I apologize.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, dude, there are only so many people each year out of high school that are an Evan Stewart type talent. Like, only so many. Um, the more you can have, the more you win. That is simple as it is. Like, these are generational type talents if they're rated as the number 1 player at their position, a top 10 player at their position. Anthony Hill is one of them. Harold Perkins is one of them. Think about how much they've changed for their teams in such a short amount of time. Think about Evan Stewart, what he did. A&M hasn't had a receiver drafted since when? Like, what's the year? It's a crazy stat. Evan Stewart was going to be the first receiver to break that.
Who was the last A&M receiver drafted?
I believe the stat was there hasn't been a receiver drafted under Jimbo. Now, obviously, he's not the coach there anymore, but
Right.
well, unless Anaya Smith will probably be picked this year.
Surely they've had a receiver drafted since Mike Evans, right?
I believe Jimbo hasn't ever had one. Am I tripping? Or maybe it's besides
No,
Christian
you're right.
Kirk.
You're right. Yeah, that was the knock on Jimbo that he hasn't had. He didn't have a wide
Christian
receiver
Kirk
draft.
and Jimbo didn't overlap at all, did they?
No, I believe. Well, I'll find out here in just a second as I go through A&M's draft history. Christian Kirk was drafted in what year was Christian Kirk? Christian Kirk was drafted in 2018, so no, that wouldn't have been overlap. That would have been someone's last year because the 2018 season was Jimbo's first year. Yeah. So Christian Kirk in the second round in 2018 was the last time A&M had a receiver drafted.
Yeah. Gotcha. Sorry, just going to Twitter.
Oh, thank you, Jake. I was looking some stuff up. I didn't even see your deal in the chat. So again, Steve Wiltfong reporting. For those of you just jumping on, Steve Wiltfong reporting. Ryan Wingo is signing his paperwork with Texas right now. That should be in shortly. So then that leaves us just with Aaron Hampton. Jordan, I know you and Hank have been reporting on Ty Anthony Smith. Again, that decision is going to be tonight at 6:30. You're not driving over to Jasper after this, are you?
No.
You're hanging out at the house tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm being at that. I made the drive from actually I was in Humble, from Humble to Jasper to be in Jasper at 6 a.m, and it was like 2.5 hours. Not fun.
Last time I made the trip to that part of the state was when Kevin Shorter was being recruited out of Newton by Texas. And I just showed up there on
Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
No, I just showed up on a whim because he was announcing like the next day, and nobody, like, it was one of those deals you need to get quotes, and nobody from the A&M or Arkansas site could make it. I'm like, I'll go out there just for the heck of it. And I was like, is it going to be A&M or Arkansas tomorrow? He's like, well, actually, it's going to be Texas. I was like, no, it's not. And he's like, yeah, it is. And he takes off his shoulder pads and he's got a Texas undershirt on. He's like, I'm serious. I'm going to Texas. Gives me quotes and everything. And, unfortunately, he had the spinal cord injury, and then there was some academic stuff, and hell of a player. He was a hell of a player from Newton. But yeah, that's the one time I've ventured out that way, was to go to Newton to meet up with Kevin Shorter.
Yeah. So since it's signing day, do you have any good signing day stories or a favorite signing day memory from a ceremony or anything crazy you covered or happening? Happening?
I think my favorite one still, there's the Alex Collins deal where his mom ran away with his letter of intent and hid it. There's the Landon Collins. There's the Landon Collins. That wasn't a signing day deal, but that was a commitment announcement where he commits to Alabama and his mom really wanted him to go to LSU. The Jacob Copeland deal a few years ago, where his mom gets up and walks away from the table when he signs with Florida. I think my favorite one, though, I want to say this was like class of 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. There's a kid named Floyd Raven. I think he was out of state of Mississippi, and he was, I think, committed to A&M or down to A&M and Ole Miss. And on signing day, he signs with A&M, and A&M has a letter of intent, but they can't announce it because Ole Miss says, well, we've got a letter of intent from Floyd Raven with his signature on it. So who got it first, and which one is going to be binding? Turns out that Floyd Raven's mom forged his signature and faxed an LOI to Ole Miss. So they ended up voiding that, and he ended up at A&M. But that was one of them. Like, dude, I've heard of the moms doing some weird stuff, but that was the first, a mom forging a signature on an LOI and just going rogue and sending it into school. No, CB, actually, that was the fax machines. That was one of the things with the pandemic that kind of went away, where now everyone has, with DocuSign and technology we have now, you can email things in. And I know some people were real, Jordan, I don't know if you remember this, but like that 2021 signing class, when, you couldn't have commitment ceremonies and things like that, coaches weren't on the road, like people were worried, like, oh man, is there going to be some kind of fraud with, using email and having to, send things electronically? No, shockingly, everything went just fine. So I don't know why they didn't do that earlier, but yeah, since the pandemic, they've been doing things electronically.
Yeah. Trying to think. The Travis Hunter thing was wild. I remember being in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru line and going through Twitter and seeing like the Jackson State stuff for the first time, and then getting home and I'm like eating on my couch watching it, and like he's doing his little speech or whatever, and he throws it off. But
a fun
yeah,
one
I
for
don't
me,
know. So
a fun one for me personally was Eric Fowler was committed to LSU out of Manor. Was committed to LSU, and he had a signing day ceremony. And from what I was told by somebody with knowledge of things going on in Baton Rouge, the LSU staff found out that Eric Fowler was signing with Texas because they watched it on my live stream on my I think it was Periscope that I was live streaming on Twitter. The LSU staff was watching it, and that's how they found out they lost Eric Fowler to Texas.
Surprised you got service in Manor, dude. The last time I was out there was for the Manor LBJ game in 2022. Actually, the last 290 rivalry game Jamal Fenner coached.
Yeah.
Manor kind of beat LBJ like a drum. They just ran Quentin Jordan down their throat. And it was Quentin's senior year, and he couldn't really be stopped at all. But no service at all. Like, could not get a single tweet out or anything that game from the stadium. It was ridiculous.
I caught up with Dylan Mitchell and Tyrese Hunter, as strange as it was, like the two guys that were involved in the draft process for the basketball team. They were running a basketball camp at Manor, and it was the day of the spring game. So I left the spring game and went over to Manor to catch up with both of those guys, because they were both flying out to LA the next day to go through the draft process. And I didn't have any service. I mean, man, I hope nothing important happens while, like a commitment or something doesn't happen while I'm in here, because I had no service. If I walk to the right corner of the gym, I could get like one teeny little bar on my service. But at any rate, no, I think who was it? Some DJ or somebody said Ryan Wingo update. Ryan Wingo is signing his paperwork apparently right now, and that's going to be into Texas here before too long. So everybody's long national nightmare about Ryan Wingo being a part of the Texas class is it looks like it's about to come to an end here shortly. So there you have it. Jordan, I want to get to some of the guys in the class though. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is Santana Wilson, like, you talked really highly of him, and a long corner with an NFL bloodline. I mean, his dad was a hellacious player back in his day. Adrian Wilson was an all-pro safety with the Cardinals. Is Santana Wilson like your ultimate sleeper in this class?
I haven't fully decided that yet. Like, we're doing the superlatives, the class superlatives for the Stampede on Monday. And I'll have a final answer then, hopefully. Let me go through here. Jordan Washington, I'm kind of upset that I can't really use him as a sleeper anymore because we made him a 4-star.
Exactly. Yeah.
But let's see.
Okay. Apparently, Ryan Wingo has signed his national letter of intent.
Yeah, I'm just waiting
his Instagram
for
account. Yeah,
he just tweeted a picture, and his older brother Ronnie screenshot and said done deal or whatever. I'm waiting. We obviously have to wait until the Texas accounts officially release it.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna operate on that. But anyway, yeah, I thought that when we got when we got the updated top 247 and saw that there were some unranked 4 stars that got that 4 star, and Jordan Washington was one of those. I was like, oh man, Jordan can't use him as a sleeper now because you can't. That's like Bucky Godbolt saying Michigan was his sleeper team. Like the number 2 team in the country can't be a sleeper team. You can't be a 4 star guy and be a sleeper. So. But yeah, Santana Wilson seems to fit that mold. I don't know, man. I like DeAndre Robinson just is so freaking intriguing to me, man, because dudes that big that are that athletic, like they're hard to come across, man. You don't find that combination all the time. And man, if Bo Davis can get it out of him, then dude, you might have a hell of a player on your hands in a year or two. And I just give me those big athletic defensive linemen out of the state of Florida. Speaking of which, Brandon Brown committed yesterday in the class of 2025. We'll talk more about Emory Winston and Brown and KJ Lacey tomorrow as we starting to shift that focus more to 2025. But I think if I had to go with a sleeper, Jordan, in this class, to me, it's DeAndre Robinson, just because that upside, man, it's so intriguing. So freaking intriguing.
Yeah. They're just going to be kind of the same thing that I felt like about Sadir Mitchell. It's like everything is there. You just got to get him to come to work every day and bust his ass every day, and he can be something. But
Yeah.
For to get result B or to get result C, you have to do A plus B. You know what I mean? And so I really think it's up to him how far he wants to go. And a lot of it is just consistency, is what I've read for our scouting team. And the reason behind his ranking, they would just like to see more consistency with kind of everything he does, it seems like. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm probably not going to end up going with him as my sleeper, but not 100%.
I know it was a tough game to watch because you couldn't get a really good read on if you watched the Smithson Valley Alito game and you were trying to get a read on Freddie DeBosa's talent level. That was probably not the ideal game to watch because Alito's just so freaking good. But you watched him earlier this year, Jordan, didn't you? You made a trip down to my neck of the woods, even a little further south, and saw Freddie DeBose. I think you did. What's your take on Freddie DeBose? Like, you feel like he's made a pretty good recovery from that ACL, or you feel like maybe he's got a little bit more to go?
I don't know. I'm no medical expert, but I can tell you, like, he isn't right now, because we've talked about this before. He doesn't seem to be as explosive as he was before the injury. I remember seeing him at a 7-on-7 tournament the spring of his sophomore year when he only had like 3 or 4 offers and super, super raw, but they just kept throwing up jump balls to him, and like his knee would be level almost with like the DB standing on the ground.
Yeah.
Like freaky shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe he could have come back too early. That could be a part of it. Also, at the same time, like he's in high school, man, and I don't know what the medical situation is for him, but I can tell you whatever it is, there's a 99.9% chance that Texas is, their services and what they can do for him medically and rehab-wise and stuff like that for his legs, like it's going to be better than what he's been working with.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can bring him fully back. I still think he's a damn good receiver the way he is right now. And I still think he's largely what he was before the injury. And that's, raw athleticism that needs coaching. But, you can't coach athleticism. You can't coach size. Yeah. Can't coach those two things. Could he be the truly, truly, truly elite athlete he was prior to the injury? To be determined.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good thing is the way Texas is set up for the first time in a long time, he doesn't need to play at all as a freshman.
Right.
Like at all.
Right. Yeah.
So,
No, and he's not a spring enrollee either. So like I'm interested to see what he does on the track this spring. Like there aren't a lot of guys that, especially like once guys sign, they run track, okay, that's great. But like he's one that I really want to see what his times, I don't know, is he a long jumper in track? I don't know, or triple jumper. I don't know if he is or not, but whatever he does in track, I want to see what those numbers are. Because I think that'll give you a really good gauge, an apples to apples comparison of all right, here's where he was before the injury, now here's where he is this spring, and what does it look like? So
Yeah.
all right. So if you're just tuning in, we've got the word. We told you Steve Wiltfong was reporting that Ryan Wingo was signing his paperwork. That was about an hour ago. His brother, you said his brother tweeted that out on that everything was signed, sealed, and delivered with him to Texas. Pretty much all we're waiting on at this point is just Texas to confirm it, and then we can officially put the Ryan Wingo saga to bed. And then with Aaron Hampton, we're waiting for Aaron Hampton to I can go ahead and say it, Jordan. We're pretty much waiting for him to make that flip to Alabama at this point. I think the surprise would be if he ended up signing with Texas, given the way things have trended this morning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Freddie's track times before the injury was a 21.57 at 200. That was his PR. And a 23.0.5 in the long jump, 47.275 in the triple jump. And then since he's returned from the injury, the only event he ran this year was the Open 400, and he PR'd in a 48.28 and went sub 9 or sub 49 3 times. Yeah. He got third at the UIL State meet too, by the way.
In the 400?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I want to see what those track times look like, because I would imagine he's probably going to be able to do all the jumps and the running events this spring, I would think. So he'll probably start working on track training. He probably is right now, getting ready for track season. I did want to go back real quick and cover Anthony Smith. I don't think we put a bow on that because the Wingo news broke while we were talking about Anthony Smith. But if you had to give your best guess, Jordan, where do you think he ends up? Because I'm kind of with you at this point from everything, I've gathered, trying to read as many tea leaves as possible. I'm like, I don't know where this kid's going to end up. I don't think anything would surprise me at this point. The consensus at least still seems to be that he's not going to end up at A&M. Nobody's moved off. Anybody that's put in a crystal ball projection for him to end up at Texas hasn't backed off of it. So that's one that he might even commit to Texas tonight at 6:30. But until the school puts out that tweet and sends out the release that they've got his paperwork and it's going through compliance, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch with Anthony Smith.
Yeah. You never know nowadays. But as of right now at 11:54 Central Time, we are expecting him to sign with Texas.
Right. So Hank South reported this morning too that I guess he got in touch with Dominic McKinley's mom, that Dominic McKinley is going to sign in February, not going to sign today. Again, that was one that, kind of like the Ryan Wingo thing, but in reverse. Everybody kind of thought that Dominic McKinley was coming to Texas until he wasn't, and then he ends up picking A&M. LSU's making a push there too. That's a guy, Jordan, that if you get, I know he's not going to be a mid-year guy, but that's a dude that's got a chance to give you something right out of the gate, you would think, as a true freshman. Man, and especially if Alfred Collins decides to move on and doesn't come back. I mean, that's a guy that could be – that one decision could turn Dominic McKinley from a luxury into a need. And he's already in need, but it's in no way, shape, or form a luxury at that point. If Alfred Collins moves on, you really need to put all your resources into getting that guy.
Yeah. And man, while, I think Texas's chances are greater with it going into February. I mean, I don't know completely if that's true, but no matter what, they're taking in February, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not looking forward to having to cover it 2 more months, to be honest with you, but, some January juice isn't ever bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, everything you said, I agree with. And there's so many. Today is signing day. They're locking in all the high school guys. 2 transfer guys should be locked in. I assume they're getting posted in, and we kind of already hit on that. There are so many dominoes left to fall with how the future of this program could be constructed with guys entering the portal or the draft after, the game versus Washington or potential national championship game if they win on the first, So there's a lot left still to happen. And yeah.
I still think too for this roster in 2024. And by the way, I've been working on it. I finally got the scholarship tracker, the roster tracker published, so that's up at Horns 24/7. Just gonna let you keep track of all the moves as we go through the off season. I still think, man, there's some positions like we saw it at safety. I saw it, I guess, a little bit at corner with Xavier Bryce, but man, interior defensive line is one of those, and I think to an extent offensive line is one of those where I think once you get through spring ball, guys will see the writing on the wall, and I think you'll see more attrition after that. And it'll just be natural attrition. Like I think I said this yesterday. It'll be guys that just look at that depth chart and say, man, here's where I am right now. Here's the guys that are in front of me. It's going to be a couple of years, but they're blocking my path to playing time, and they're still continuing to recruit and bring in guys. Man, if I'm going to play, I got to go somewhere else to do it. I love Texas, but I got to go somewhere else if I want to get on the field. I think guys will start to see that, especially some of those third-year guys, Jordan. That defense, it's a huge spring, and I don't think that's an understatement by me for Aaron Bryant, Zach Swanson, those type guys, because it's probably now or never for that group. I throw Jeray Bledsoe in there too. I think for that group of interior D linemen, I think it's now or never for those guys. Jordan, anything you want to hit on before we start to wrap this thing up, and we're going to pass it to Trey and BK a little bit early today?
No, nothing really besides what you said. The Jeray Bledsoe thing, I would say, I'm expecting him to play a lot next year.
Yeah.
They're losing a lot of, like, Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat. As much as they rotate, those guys still take up a shit ton of snaps, and those snaps need to go somewhere. So,
yeah,
I think Jeray Bledsoe will be someone receiving some of those snaps, at least a small portion, at least. So, maybe you're right. Maybe he is a guy that could see some writing on the wall and could bounce. But, I think of Aaron Bryant, Zach Swanson, and Jeray Bledsoe. He's by far, in my eyes, the favorite to get the most playing time out of the three.
No doubt. I just had to mention him because if I didn't, someone would be like, well, Jeray Bledsoe's a third-year guy too. Yeah, he is. So we'll just go ahead and mention him. But yeah, he's.
By the way, while we're getting
Go
off, Horns 24/7's Hank South. I have no idea what he's saying because I have it on mute, but he's on 24/7 signing day show. So if you want to go to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel and see our boy Hank, he's on right now. So go check him out.
Support our boy, man. Hank South. Good dude, by the way, Hank South. I know Hank's on with Chip and Zay. Actually, is he doing? I know he did Bucky and BK this morning. I don't know if he's on with Chip and Zay today or not, but I've got the Sark press conference today at 3:30, so I'm sure we'll get signing day stuff, and we're gonna get Sugar Bowl stuff too because we haven't talked to Sark since the selection show, since Selection Sunday. So we'll get all of that for you at Horse 24/7. Don't forget, today is our free VIP day. Get over to the site. We've taken the paywall down. Anything that's got that VIP tag on it, you get it for free. So go ahead, take advantage of that flagship message board, all of our VIP content. It's all up there on the site. And even though our free VIP day is going to end at 10:59 tonight, at 11 o'clock when it's midnight Eastern, from that point on through January 2nd, we'll do our 60% off of an annual sub. Also, you'll be able to upgrade. Monthly members will be able to upgrade also. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff going on the site. It's a great time to be a Longhorn fan. There's a lot of people doing really good content in the Texas market, but I'll put our stuff, especially our recruiting coverage with Hank and Jordan, I'll put it up against anybody in the market and say ours is the best at Horns 24/7.